Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. My name is Ashley, and today we're going to be doing the long-awaited Veer review that we've been wanting to do for such a long time. I know that there are other Veer reviews online. It's one of the wagons that has more information out there about it than other ones that we reviewed. But I did watch a bunch of them in preparation for this video just to see what we could contribute that would be different. And I did notice that in some of the other reviews and the information that I found, they didn't cover certain topics that I think could be important or useful to families that are interested in the Veer and not sure if they want to buy it. So hopefully our perspective will help give you some more information and help you make a good decision for your family. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to try and just give you an idea of what the user experience is day to day, things that you may not know until you get your hands on it and you are using it every day. We'll take the guesswork out of it for you, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you. So we'll get started with the video. I'm going to include some footage here of our adventures with the Veer. Go ahead and use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead if you don't want to see us at the lake, at the park, and doing some magnet fishing with the Veer. Whoa! It's a tape measure!
You're a tape measure? Mine's broken!
Oh, cool!
Whoa! You dropped his meat sticker.
So it's on reviews like this that I am so glad we are a family channel. The guy that's usually behind the camera is my husband, but he often comes in to help out with a lot of the folding and lifting and things like that. So I'm really glad that that is the case, because today we have different opinions on the Veer, and hopefully that will help you to have a more well-rounded, experience learning about it. For me, I'm not as big of a fan, but my husband is more enjoying it. So hopefully, I'll do my little bit first, give you some of my thoughts, and then he'll jump in and give some of his thoughts as he has more experience with other things, So that's what we'll be doing for the video. And this is the Veer as it comes basic out of the box. It has the snack tray included, and then it has these two cup holders that you can position either here or on those attachment points here on the back I've seen. And they also have a set here on the front where you can attach them. Now, just to note, these are also the attachment points for other accessories, such as the nap system. You wrap the little cords around there to, put that in, and other things. So I don't know if you can put on, like, for example, the canopies and the nap system and the cup holders all at the same time, because that might be too many things on those attachment points. But it is nice to have that option. The first thing that I will talk about accessories is the cup holders in this position are kind of meant to swivel. If you can see, they kind of have that option, but my experience has been, and the experience of other Veer users that I've spoken with, including some of my own friends, that this doesn't really work. Like, if you're moving the handlebar out of this fixed position and you want to put it into pull mode, they don't tend to swivel into place like you would hope they would. And that has resulted in spillage, loss of cups, loss of coffee even onto children. So just something to think about if you are bringing, cups into these kind of positions. You might want to just put them on the frame of the Veer itself, as the swivel is not entirely dependable and could result in a loss of whatever beverage you have. We will be talking about a whole host of other accessories, as my friend Lucy was kind enough to loan them to us today. But I do want to mention that Veer has a ton of accessories. A ton. As I was researching for this video, I realized they have a lot more accessories than I even realized. They have, the tote bag. It's like a waterproof, really cool tote. They have misting fan. They have different sidewalls that you can put on, different colors of canopies, all sorts of things. There's just so many accessories that you can put on to make this thing your own. So for me, that is a pro. Definitely really nice that you can customize this. Even though it is a rugged, heavy-duty wagon, you can make it your own and make it fit your family. I've even seen families that do like custom decals here on the fender, that they put either their child's name or maybe their family name or something like that, and you can really, jazz it up and make it cool. So that is definitely an advantage that I wanted to talk about, is that you can, even though it is all black and, kind of, I don't know, like I said, heavy duty looking. There's also the collaboration that they did with another company where they made, you know, like a military aspect of it where it has all the loops that you can, you know, put different accessories on, hanging bags. What are those things called?
It's from Molly Gear.
Molly Gear. And so so you can hang different, you know, like wipes bag, you know, things like that off the side, patches if you're, you know, former military or, you know, a Leo or something like that, and you have patches you can put on there. So the Veer is definitely customizable to your family and to your preferences. Pardon the squeak. We have a guy swinging outside right now in the backyard. For me, I will say that pushing and pulling and how that experience is for the user is one of the biggest factors for me on if I like a particular baby vehicle or not. And so over the course of the time that we've had this channel, and even before we've had this channel, when I was just into strollers and kind of crazy, I definitely fine-tuned what I like and what I don't like. So for me, that is a big make it or break it factor. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm not exactly fond of the Veer and using it day to day. I know that there are plenty of parents out there that have replaced their stroller fleet with just this, and they find ways to make it work for every situation. And I think that's really cool. I could never do it. It would just drive me bonkers. I think over all terrains, like over any terrain you could take it over, the best function for me is just pulling it. Actually, I think that gives you the best, you know, consistent quality of push and or, you know, pull of the ride for the kids. For me, the push drives me absolutely nuts, especially on flat ground, because I find that I have to constantly overcorrect to keep it going straight. And it just like mentally is taxing because you're already focused on your kids and whatever else is going on around you, but then you're subconsciously like overcorrecting for this thing. And then for my arms, I get tired too. But I will admit I am an extraordinarily weak person in my arms, especially when I'm pregnant. So that is definitely a factor to consider. But just for me, it's taxing to have to think about that all the time, and it's just really annoying. On grass and things like that, it's not as bad. But of the three modes that the Veer has, which are the push, the pull, and then the pull along, which is when it is in this fixed position, the handlebar, and you just kind of walk alongside it and push it alongside you, the push is my least favorite, unfortunately. And that kind of brings me to my opinion and my realization on this. I know that they market it as, it's the Veer Cruiser, but it is often called the stroller wagon. I have kind of come to this conclusion for myself that, I think it's more of just a kid-friendly wagon. The stroller designation, I know that it's pushable, but it's not a great push in my opinion. It's more work than I find it to be worth. Some people get used to it and they think it's great. I don't enjoy it. So obviously having the ability to add comfort seats and things like that for your kids to make it more stroller-like is really nice. But you can do that with a Radio Flyer stroller wagon, and they're not on the same level of quality, and it's just not the same user experience. So for my thought process, I feel like this is just a really high-end, great quality, adaptable wagon. But the push function for me is just not great. It makes going over curbs more difficult too, because it has one attachment point to the entire wagon body. So when you're going up over the curb, not only are you bringing 30 plus pounds of wagon along with you, but your kids and whatever else is inside. So to try and curb hop and bring this back end up off the ground with all that weight inside of it, to me feels very precarious, and I don't do it. One, because this is not mine, this is on loan from a friend, and I wouldn't want to break her wagon in any way or damage it or, affect the performance. But also I think if I just had it for myself, I wouldn't want to chance it because I just dropped like $1,000 on this thing and all the accessories. So just from my perspective, if you're going to go over the curb, and we'll show that in the comparison video that we're coming out with soon. So if you do want to see more clips of how it does across different terrains, using it on that terrain, on the grass, on the bumps, in the moment, my thoughts on it, check out the comparison video, because we're going to go over the curbs and all that stuff, and you can see video clips of it there. I would just take it in pull mode every time. Unless you have maybe just like very, very little weight in it, then you're probably fine. But for me, that kind of removes it really from having the stroller tagline on it, as a lot of families do consider it to be a stroller wagon. Something else that does affect the ride and how your kids feel inside of the wagon is the suspension or lack thereof. I've had mixed results on this one. Looking on the Veer website, they advertise it as having suspension. So you kind of expect for it to, you know, obviously absorb some shock, going over gravel well. The kids aren't going like bumping crazy inside. And that wasn't my user experience. And in speaking with other more experienced Veer owners that have had theirs for quite some time, they have not experienced it having any suspension either. So it's valuable to know that from other people, you know, just that they've taken it over different terrains than I have and things like that. But in my experience, over bumpy terrain and gravel and all such things, my little one is inside just bouncing around trying to eat a snack, but he can't get it in his mouth because it just is like bouncing everywhere. So we're gonna do a quick demo for you of my husband applying as much pressure as he possibly can to the front, and you can see some of the suspension that the Veer is advertising there. But he estimates probably, what do you say, honey, like 200 pounds?
I put at least 200 pounds of pressure.
So applying that much pressure, that is when you start to visibly see, okay, there is suspension or shock absorbing or something of that nature. On the back, there's nothing. So just, you know, if you read that on their website and you're expecting to get like a Bob experience of suspension, it's not going to happen. You need to know what you're getting into and know what you're buying. This is not like an off-roading Jeep, you know what I mean? Like as in the vehicle, not the stroller wagon. But it's, you know, it's not going to absorb shock the same way that a vehicle would. It is a wagon.
Especially in the back seat, there's no suspension.
Yeah, it is a wagon. So don't expect it to be like a jogger or something like that. That's all-terrain in a different way with air tires. It does not have air tires, and the suspension is limited. So I just wanted to include that for the sake of the review. So as a final note on, you know, the bumpy portion of it, I do want to say that going over speed bumps and things like that, you know, smooth, even bigger bumps, no problem at all. We did it in push and pull, and it was really easy. So it's not to say like that this doesn't push well. The tires are very high quality. They are thicker than your average wagon tire, and they are totally more rugged. And having the bigger back tire also helps, you know, for the push. So it's not a bad push. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just wanted to clarify that, you know, over tiny bumps, gravel, things like that, you know, it's not going to be as smooth. And I know, especially with small babies, some parents prefer to just take them all the way out because it can be too jostling. But you know, for grass and things like that, it does well. So the next thing that we wanted to cover was the Basecamp. So this is an accessory, as you can see, it clips on here, and you can definitely use it on its own. You don't have to have a Veer to buy the Basecamp, and I'm sure that there are plenty of families that would fall into that category because it is amazing. I'll put some pictures in over here. We've used it at the park, we've used it at the beach, and we found it amazing every single time. And actually, I put it up in the backyard to take a picture for someone of the size and of me inside of it. So I'll include that picture as well, so you can get like a size reference on how big it is. But it is amazing. It is so easy to set up and take down. You don't have to be like a genius. I know my husband has a million years of tent experience putting up and taking down.
Not that old.
Okay, you dinosaur. So, but I don't, okay? I'm a city gal. I don't like camping. So for me, you don't have to bend over backwards in your mind of how to make this work. It is so user-friendly. It's easy to wipe down. It's easy to clean. It's just fantastic. It's high quality, like everything else Veer makes. And for me, it's totally worth the money. Now, this is not ours, you know, we're definitely returning it, but we're considering getting one because it made our day at the beach so great. You don't have to bring chairs for the kids, you know, and stuff like that. If you're gonna be wherever you're at, they can just sit here in their tent and you can have containment, and they have sun protection, and it's fantastic. It's breezy, you know, it has ventilation, and so it really is a fantastic accessory from the Veer company.
It's also a good timeout corner.
I mean, I didn't have to use it that way, but sure. So on the topic of awesome accessories from the Veer, now I'm going to go ahead and cover the storage basket. That is, it's obviously an additional purchase, as it does not come with the wagon, but there are some really great features about this. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the wagon, and then I'll show it to you and show you some of the really nice things about it. So it attaches here on the ends. Oop, come on.
You could do both at the same time.
Well, it just fell off that side. There we go. Okay. So it attaches here at the end. It does not have an attachment point on the other side, so I guess that's like a downside, is that you can't put it in both locations. And for me, I generally prefer to have my storage close to the driver, just, you know, because I don't trust people. But Veer thought about that. So something really cool about this is that it's got this net, which makes it great, obviously, like for shaking out leaves or brush or whatever else may accompany outdoor activities. But it also has this awesome zipper, so you can put things inside of this, and then zipping it over the top gives you security, because it's a lot harder for someone to snatch your stuff out of there if it's enclosed and zipped up, and then they have to figure that out and work that to get your stuff out. But on top of that, it allows you to actually carry more stuff, because here, as you can see, it's a little bit shallow, and maybe you can just carry like a tote or something. But if you bring this net out, you can stuff it almost like twice the amount of things in here, and it'll keep it contained. So I really actually enjoy that. I think that this is a really great design function from Veer on that part. Obviously, you need to be aware that it does add a chunk of distance on the end of your wagon here, so moving through small places, you're gonna have to think about that, because it does make it more difficult to navigate. And the biggest downside for me on this basket is how low to the ground it really is, because you know, going up or down curbs in any situation, or you know, it's just really easy to scrape and scuff. So I know that there have been people that just with normal use have worn out the underside of that bag very quickly, and they don't know what to do about it. So you have to buy a replacement or something like that. I'm not sure, but that's just something to be aware of, is that this can get worn down very easily. But other than that, the attachment points are very sturdy, you know, just like everything else, very high quality, and thoughtfully made with the design. So for this portion, we're gonna go ahead and cover the inside of the wagon and the snack tray here. So as far as snack trays go, this is pretty good. It is hard, and it's got that lip, so you know, if they're having snacks in here or something, they're not just gonna roll off and disappear into the footwell. And then the cup holding portion, it doesn't fit my kids' cups. Maybe they're a little too rounded at the bottom or something, so it's not gonna fit all cups. But it is deep enough to hold. You don't want to put a grown-up cup in this, because it will just fall right out. But for like a small kid's cup, this is just fine. And what I do like about it is that I found that you can kind of position it across the Veer. Now I will say this, there are specific nubs along the lip here of the Veer that are meant for the snack tray attachment point and canopy attachment points and things like that. But if you don't need it to be incredibly tight on there, and you do need more leg space one way or the other, because let's say you have a bigger child in there that their knees don't fit that well under that, you can scoot it closer to the smaller child and clip it on as best you can. And honestly, it hangs on pretty well. So it's not going to be clipped onto those little nubbins, but it works just fine. So for most people, this is going to be a good snack tray, actually. And so you can go ahead and take it off, and it kind of clips on like that. So I like that that's included. I think that's great. Moving on to the inside of the Veer. So obviously you see it's just kind of hard plastic everywhere. They do sell the toddler comfort seats that we'll go over in a little bit. This is not an optional 3 to 5 point, as a lot of stroller wagons have. This is just a 3 point. So for some families that may be, you know, problematic, because you need those shoulder straps to keep your wild child in. So that's something to remember. And then they have this great ventilation across the back here. So, you know, you're doing something really outdoorsy, or it's really hot. Obviously, this is a black cruiser. It's going to draw some heat. So having that ventilation is an added bonus here. As far as storage goes, it's got plenty of storage for kids. You got lots of stuff happening here all across the inside. So this is, you know, great for toys, snacks, you know, all that good stuff. I will point out that these are elastic. I've never seen a stroller wagon that has like elastic pockets, to my knowledge. They're generally just like a pocket that's kind of flat. So this can expand to give you more room for storage, but once this elastic wears out, you're gonna need to have a specialty seamstress or somebody to replace them, because it's gonna be hard to do that on your own unless you're really knowledgeable. And it's just gonna look loose and kind of weird. But I mean, for now, this is a really great option to have. Just thinking longevity-wise, if you plan on using this for a very long time, just think of something about that, because I know my kids would just sit there and stretch it. And the other storage thing that they advertise on their website is this storage nook. They say that this is for toys and such things. To me, that looks like a goldfish cracker trap. I don't know. It doesn't really seem that useful to me, but you know, that was something that they advertised on their site. Something that I really like about the Veer. One, obviously, so this footwell is fantastic. It does ride a little bit low as the wagon does, but this is a hard footwell. This is unique. I've never seen a product like this. All the other stroller wagons in the market that I've seen, or wagons in general that have a footwell really, other than like the red plastic ones, you know, Radio Flyer, they don't have a hard footwell, and that can be a concern, especially when you're riding low like this. Going up over curbs and things like that, like we've already said, the storage bag drags. So you don't want something so low to the ground and then your kids are in a soft footwell and they get some, you know, just like pinched between the curb and the stroller wagon or something like that. Like just the soft footwell is a little bit more, you need to be a little more careful. This one is a hard one. So if something's gonna happen to it, it's gonna scrape the wagon and your kids' feet are gonna be completely protected. So I really love that. This is a fantastic feature. And as you can see there, as he's moving it up and down, it actually collapses upward to give you a more compact fold if needed for your vehicle. So this is like a really adaptable. It's not meant for use that way, so I wouldn't do that at all because it wouldn't be sturdy that way. But for, you know, for the purpose of folding and compactness, that is really great. It's got this mesh here in the sides that gives you, you know, obviously better ventilation. It's easy to clean too because it does have these snaps that you can just shake it out, you know, any stuff, any schmuck that may accumulate in there. So I am a fan of the design of the footwell. I think that that's a really great feature. Something that can be a little bit concerning, I've seen some parents that care about it and some parents that completely just don't care. So it's really up to your parenting style, are these kind of these cracks here that are in every corner of the Veer. So here on the back end with the big tires, it's not as much of a concern if you're using, if you're using the fender portion because it does protect little fingers from the tires. However, these are removable. So if for whatever reason you want to take them off, this would be a concern on this end as well. But on this end over here, there are no fenders for these tires, and there have been, you know, incidents where kids will put their hands, like kids have tiny little arms, right? They'll stick their little arm out there and just want to play with a tire, and you can easily get it pinched in there or caught or whatever like that. Or even just getting the arm stuck in that crack could be really painful. So just something to consider if your kids are, I mean, I know that there are plenty of families that say, you know what, my kids did it once and they never did it again. They learned their lesson. So that could apply, but something to think about if you have little ones that may be prone to sticking their limbs out of that way. We may have a small visitor running in and out of the shot for the rest of the video, so just, you know, he woke up from his nap. But we're going to cover the toddler comfort seat now, and then we're going to go over some of the pricing on things. So the toddler comfort seat, and you know, it is an entirely new seat you are adding to the wagon. It completely covers the old seat, so they're not going to feel the plastic or the ventilation on the back or anything like that. It's completely obscured. You have an entirely new harness set. So the other one is not usable right now. This is attached to the toddler comfort seat, and I like that it is a 5-point harness. So if you need a 5-point harness either for younger kids, because they can slip out of a 3-point, or if you have a child with medical needs that needs extra support or something like that, you're gonna wanna get this comfort seat for your kids. It is really comfortable, padded, you know, very nice materials, all such things. It even has this magnetic closure for the sides, and then it attaches in the back as well in a few different points. But something to think about is that one, it does take off some of this storage that you have along the backside and those little nooks that are down there. But the other feature here that you're going to think about is that it does eat a significant portion into the footwell space. It's about 2 to 3 inches, somewhere in there. And so if you have two little ones that need this comfort seat, you know, it's going to eat 4 to 6 inches of space into this footwell that is already not that huge to begin with. So when we first started testing out with the Veer, we put both seats in and found that there was just way too little space for the legs on our oldest and our middle children together. It just, like, there was absolutely not happening. So once we took it out for the older kid and left it for the younger kid, it was fine. But just something to consider, you know, if you, there is a lifespan on these, that as kids grow and they get bigger and longer and, you know, such things, that it's not going to work forever. They do sell other inserts, like I know they sell some kind of like a Sherpa lining seat for the winter and stuff like that. So maybe you could get a custom seat made that's, you know, less intrusive to the footwell. So there could be other options. I just wanted to cover that. And that brings us to some of the pricing. Obviously these are an additional cost. just like everything else other than the snack tray. That's too loud, Sheldon. Oh, honey. Let's pause. Sorry about that. That's family life for you. So talking about price, everything is going to cost you extra other than that snack tray and those cup holders. It can really add up. You know, I mean, obviously the price for the cruiser itself is a little bit high, but it's very good quality, and you know, they really they deliver on that price. For me, where they lose me a little bit is nickel and diming on every other thing possible. For example, on these canopies here, you buy them separately, which to me, any wagon or stroller, or especially if you're asserting to be a stroller wagon, needs to come with canopies. That is an essential function of the stroller wagon, to cover your children from the elements. These are very well built, but I think it's a little bit tacky to not include them. So you're going to buy each of these separately, and then even in addition to this, because if you put both canopies on, there is a gap here where kids are not going to get coverage. So if you want full coverage for your kids, you're going to buy this extra lip piece that gets zippered onto here, and those are an additional $19 each, plus tax and shipping or whatever that is. So to get full coverage, you're gonna buy 4 separate pieces. You're gonna buy 2 canopies and then 2 lips to bridge the gap here. So just stuff like that just was mind-boggling to me. But you know, I mean, they do sell a good range of accessories, which is great. But I just, for me, the price point, I feel like a little bit more should be included here with the cruiser. From that point, we can talk about these canopies because they are very high quality, and they do have the zipper attachment, which is actually very similar to the Pronto, that you can zip on other things. So you can zip on like the bug net onto this. You know, when you use the nap system, you know, they comes with that little bug net to give some shade kind of thing. One thing that I've learned from experience, we have learned from experience, and that other Veer owners, longtime users have told me, is that the canopies can be pretty tricky to learn at first, but once you learn them, they will stay on solidly. For example, on these clips here, there's a little nubbins that's underneath, and maybe you can see that down there. That for most people who don't have an in-depth idea of how to use it, won't realize is the securing attachment point for the canopy, and it can be kind of difficult to get it exactly on there right. So once you master it, you know, you'll be great, but until then, you might have some loose canopies until you figure that part out. But the canopy itself is high quality. It's got this peekaboo window, which is nice, and it gives you know, ventilation. It's got mesh, and it's got this coverage thing, so it's got magnetic closure here if you don't want to have that open. I will say that obviously, just like anything else, there is you do have a period of time where this will work for you and then it won't. I have a tall 5-year-old, and I'll put a picture in of him here when he's using it. He just looked up at me, and I had this parent thing open, and he just looked at me and he said, "Mom, this isn't very comfortable." So he's on the tall side. I mean, he's always been a taller kid. So I don't know what age it would happen for other families, but for us, 5 has kind of been like the tap out age for where this is like a comfortable canopy to have. And that's without the comfort seat. The comfort seat actually would take even more space out of the seating area. But that's just a few thoughts on the canopies. Don't fall in. Okay. So 2 quick things that I'll just cover are the brakes. I like that this is a radically different brake system than other strollers / stroller wagons. Wagons or what, any of those things, that it is this kind of push kind of thing. I will say I found that if I'm out and about, that it is very easy to think that you've engaged the brake and you really haven't. So I'll think, okay, I got it all the way down there, and then I go and I step away and the thing is not locked. So just be very careful and intentional when you're engaging this brake here. But I will say that it is more open shoe friendly than a lot of other options that are on the market, you know, that are either sharper, you have to dig your foot under there, or whatever like that. So this is a lot, you just do a little push right there, and then it comes right up. So for the most part, I like it. You just want to be careful when you're using it. The other thing that I just want to point out, in my opinion, there's not that much storage on here for shopping and things like that. So the families that do entirely replace their stroller fleet with the Veer, I kind of prefer to have more storage space for if we're going to the store. So like for me, if you have 2 kids in here, you're not going to be able to put very much in. You know, the storage basket can only carry 15 pounds, can only hold so much. But, so maybe if you have 1 kid in there and you don't need that much stuff, oh, come here, just hold on a second. If you don't need that much stuff, it could be fine. But you know, as far as like going to Costco with it or something, absolutely not. Or if I'm doing, you know, like 2 weeks to a month's worth of shopping, absolutely not. It's not happening. There are more spacious options on the market, so just keep that in mind. So this is kind of an afterthought, but something that I wanted to include because we were talking about it earlier, is, you know, amusement parks and things like that with the push, and I know that there's certain amusement parks that have banned stroller wagons and wagons in general. It's been very controversial. I wanted to add my 2 cents that I think that there's a lot of merit to arguments that say that stroller wagons should be allowed into such parks, and parents that are very frustrated with the fact that they're not allowed into such parks. And I understand some of those arguments and I agree with them, and I can see both sides of the thing, why it would be problematic and why it would be advantageous, and it's more difficult for the customer and blah, 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 to not have it. The one thing that I will say is that and this, like, please don't come for me, Veer families, I don't think that Veer should be allowed in the places where it's banned. I understand why the Veer would be, because the push function is not as easy to control as a regular stroller. So to try and navigate crowds with that, I don't think is very good. And then if you're using it in the pool, which is easier to keep a straight course, you know, it's behind you. One, you can't see your kids, you can't see your stuff, and you could very easily, like, you know, go over somebody's foot or something like that. So this is just my 2 cents. I'm always going to keep it real with you on the channel, so this may be very controversial among some people. Some people may not like that I'm saying this, but I think, you know, there are other brands such as maybe like a Wonderfold or, you know, whatever else that's not allowed right now, that there could be a good argument for them being allowed. Veer, I don't think, is really safe for crowds in that way, and it would just be very problematic, and I can see why they wouldn't want that there. So while it is allowed in the vast majority of amusement parks, I do see the argument on this one for why it wouldn't be allowed everywhere. A small note about the canopies actually is that it depends on your family if this is going to matter at all or not. For some kids, it can be really annoying to not have that much visibility. For example, like when both of the canopies are engaged, and this is without the 2 lip pieces that I was telling you about that are sold separately, it does limit your visibility for the kids inside. I think they tried to mediate this as much as possible by putting in some of this mesh here on the side so kids can look out this direction. But, you know, if you do know that you have a child that's particularly finicky about the viewpoint, you know, just be aware of that. The last thing that I want to talk about before we swap out to the husband portion of the hour is just the fold. The fold is very compact. It's the advantage, it's very compact and it's pretty easy to do in the sense of the wagon itself. And another big advantage is that the tires are very easy to take off, front and back. So if you need to do that because you have a smaller vehicle, very, very, very easy to do. That footwell, like I was saying earlier, does come up to give you added flattage, if you will. So that's very useful. The thing that turns a lot of families off about the Veer when it comes to the fold is that you have to take off pretty much everything. I mean, you can leave the cup holders on, but, you know, pretty much everything needs to come off. I have seen some families that say that there's like hacks, right? That they found ways to make it work that are faster. For example, like one mom would say that she would take off, like unattach the comfort seat and just shove it down into the footwell, and then she could close it on over that. But I don't see that fitting in there well, so over time you're definitely going to either damage the seat or warp it or, you know, something like that. So I wouldn't suggest doing that. But it is tedious to have to sit down and take off canopy, snack tray, storage bag, and then to, you know, Basecamp over there, and any other accessories that you have on, and then to fold it down. That can be annoying for some people. It just depends on your preferences. Like for me, you know, we have multiple children and we have young children. So sometimes leaving the store or wherever we've been can be, you just want to get home. You know, you're just tired of the whole outing and you just want to get home. And to sit there and take, you know, however long it is to take this stuff off and then get the thing in the car and the kids are yelling at you and blah, and you have to find places to put all this stuff, and like that can just be like a headache. And, you know, that also applies like if you're flying, you know, and you're gate checking, think about that, because you don't want to be that family at the front, you know, when you're gate checking this thing and you're taking off 50 million things, and then you have to think about, where do I put them? You know, do I have bag space for that? Can I shove this canopy that has this rigid lip on it into my carry-on backpack? Probably not. You know, flying, I know a lot of people fly with this and they like it. It's just something to consider, that when you do fold it down, you're gonna have to take off all this stuff, and where do you put it? They do sell a travel bag, which seems to be very high quality. I'm gonna give it a test run today and see how that goes, see how easy it is to get it into the travel bag. But I just wanted to give you some advantages and disadvantages of the Fold. It can be very, very compact and fit in a lot of vehicles, actually, because of the way that it folds down with the walls coming in. But also, you know, if you are perhaps impatient like I am, maybe it wouldn't be the best fit for your family. So now we're gonna go ahead and swap off to the husband's side of this little show here, and he'll give you some of his thoughts that are different than mine. He has, you know, different perspectives, so hopefully that will be helpful.
Hi, I'm Tom. Welcome to our channel. So my first thing that I noticed with the Veer, I really liked how it's built, how sturdy and strong it is. It looks like a tank, and so that appealed to me right away. Now, I also have a lot of experience with pushing and pulling things like this. So that's why it kind of came as more natural to me, and why I actually enjoyed some parts of pulling it and why I had fun with pushing it. So for the pull along mode, I enjoy doing that. I'm already the guy that's pulling along a grocery cart when I'm at Walmart, for example. I'm already used to that. So I kind of felt very accustomed to that right from the get-go. Now in the pull mode, I'm not as huge of a fan there, just because I have a larger footprint when I'm pulling it. And also I have to crane my neck backwards to constantly check on the kids. So I prefer the pull along mode to the pull. So in this lock position, it's just easier to steer and get around, maneuver around areas. Now in push mode, again, I have more experience with things like this. Lowe's and Home Depot have those flatbed carts that I often use, and so where the wheels in front are on an axle and the ones by the handles swivel, that's what a flatbed cart is always like there. So I was used to that, but it is more difficult. It's steering it, maneuvering it, and the timing and anticipating, you know, where the crowd is walking and getting through some turns. It can be more difficult in the push mode, just like a flatbed cart at Home Depot again, because it's a different kind of steering. You have to start turning sooner. You have to make sure you're turning wide enough. It does wide turns when you're in the push mode, or in the pull mode, really. So while it's a challenge, I actually had fun with that challenge. So some people might get frustrated with that challenge, but that's where Ashley and I kind of veer off with our preferences there. So my final thoughts are that with the Veer, I really liked it. I enjoyed the push and pull of it, and if I had to bring any stroller or wagon into battle, this would be my choice. You could weigh it down with all your other gear and guns all around the sides. Doesn't really encumber the turning or the maneuverability of it. But do keep in mind though that the weight limit is 110 pounds, so not as much as something like the Wonderfold or the Pronto. So that's where I'm probably gonna pull my other guns and ammo. But with this one though, again, it looks really cool. It's really sturdy. Yeah, those are my final thoughts on it.
So I hope you guys catch us on the next video. We're going to be doing a comparison between the Veer as well as the Pronto and the Jeep stroller wagon. It's going to have the comparison chart with all of the stats, so you can look at them side by side and make a good decision for you guys and what you think is best for your family.
Please like, share, subscribe, throw any questions you have in the comments section below, and Ashley's going to do her best to answer those. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.